You already know more than you think. You just haven't learned how to read the silence yet. Every person you meet is a walking library of secrets. They leave clues in the way they blink, in the way they adjust their collar when a certain name is mentioned, and in the jokes they tell to hide their tears. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "Every profound spirit needs a mask." But the mask isn't just a lie, it's a survival strategy. This isn't about body language hacks or surface-level tricks you find in an airport bookstore. This is about psychological truth. The kind that once you see it, you can never unsee it again. We are going to walk through 18 truths that act as a master key to the human soul. But before we begin, understand this. People don't speak to tell you the truth. They speak to manage your perception of them. From the moment we are children, we are trained to use words as currency. We trade "I'm fine" for "please don't ask." We trade "I'm busy" for "I'm overwhelmed." Nietzsche warned us, do not be fooled by the currency. Look at the person holding the coin, the person who is overly kind, the one who is almost aggressively helpful. They may not be a saint. They might just be terrified of rejection. Their kindness is a bribe offered to the world so that no one will ever leave them. The one who projects an image of ironclad strength, who never shows a crack, is often the one crumbling the fastest under the weight of their own expectations. Most people are actors in a play they didn't even write. Their smiles, their political opinions, their tone of voice, these were all shaped by what kept them safe in the past. They aren't hiding from you. They are hiding from themselves. Truth number 1, the mask is a shield, not a weapon. Everyone wears a mask to survive, not because they are fake, but because they are scared. To exist in society, we create a version of ourselves that we hope is acceptable, but masks are heavy. Eventually, they slip. The first sign of the real person is tension. Watch for the moments where the performance doesn't match the energy. Watch for the micro expressions that flash across a face for a fraction of a second before the smile returns. That flash, that tiny moment of discomfort, that is where the real person begins. Truth number 2, projection is a confession. Nietzsche had a sharp eye for this. What someone hates in others is almost always what they are hiding in themselves. When you hear someone constantly mocking arrogance in others, look closely at their own self-worth. They are often the most insecure people in the room, projecting their fear of being small onto everyone else. If someone is obsessed with pointing out dishonesty, they are usually wrestling with a truth they haven't had the courage to face yet. We hate in others what we are afraid to admit is inside us. So, when you want to read someone, don't just listen to who they admire. Listen to who they criticize, and more importantly, listen to why. Truth number 3, silence speaks louder than words. Nietzsche didn't believe that truth came from talking. In fact, he saw language as a tool of the herd. Words are often used to avoid reality, not to describe it. When you ask a deep question and someone pauses, don't rush to fill the gap. That silence is a map. If they dodge a topic, if they give a short, rehearsed reply to a question that requires soul-searching, they are showing you the boundaries of their cage. A person avoiding vulnerability is revealing everything about what they fear. The loud person is often trying to drown out a silence they can't handle. But the one who can sit in silence with you, who doesn't feel the need to perform, that is where the mask starts to dissolve. Truth number 4, excessive virtue is often disguised vanity. Be very careful of the person who loudly proclaims their purity. The one who is always correcting others. the one who is always preaching. Nietzsche called this the will to power in disguise. Sometimes morality becomes a mask for superiority. It's a way to stand above the crowd while pretending to serve it. The louder the virtue signal, the more likely there is a shadow being suppressed behind it. Real goodness doesn't need a megaphone. Real integrity doesn't seek applause. If someone is constantly trying to prove how good they are, ask yourself, who are they trying to convince? You or themselves? Truth number 5, the internal lie. People don't lie to you first. They lie to themselves. This changes everything. The lies you hear, I'm over it. It doesn't bother me. I don't care. These aren't meant to hurt you. They are rehearsals. They have said these things so many times that they've started to believe them. Nietzsche understood self-deception as a defense mechanism. It's a way to keep functioning in a world that is often too painful to look at directly. So, when someone's story doesn't add up, don't get angry. Don't assume they are a liar in the traditional sense. Realize they have been deceiving themselves far longer than they've been deceiving you. The inconsistencies in their story are the seams of their reality coming apart. That is where you find the truth. Truth number 6, superiority is a crown on a scared child. Where someone feels the need to be superior, they are hiding a deep sense of inferiority. This is pure Nietzsche. Superiority is almost always overcompensation. If someone constantly reminds you of their accomplishments, their money, their status, they are terrified that without those things, they are nothing. They are afraid of being overlooked. They are afraid of being ordinary. Real confidence doesn't need to compete. It just exists. If someone needs to dominate or control the room, look deeper. Behind the throne, you will almost always find a scared child wearing a heavy gold crown, hoping no one notices how much their head hurts. We are moving into part 2 now. This is where we look at the cracks in the persona. It's one thing to notice the mask. It's another to watch it break. Have you ever noticed a flash of discomfort when someone's core beliefs are challenged? Or the way their tone shifts when the conversation gets a little too personal? These aren't accidents. They are clues. Truth number 7, fear is the engine. Most human actions are driven by unconscious fear. Ask yourself, why does someone over-explain? Why do they dominate a conversation until no one else can speak? Or why do they disappear the moment things get emotional? It's fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of humiliation, fear of being seen as a failure. Nietzsche knew that humans rarely act from pure desire. We act from a deep fear of loss. When you want to truly read someone, stop focusing on what they say they want. Ask, what are they afraid of losing? Are they afraid of losing control? Of losing their status? Of losing the version of themselves they've spent years building? That is where the truth lives. Truth number 8, the mirror of criticism. Next time you hear someone constantly critiquing others, listen with a different set of ears. The man who mocks emotional people is often terrified of his own feelings. He has spent his life suppressing his heart, and seeing someone else express theirs feels like a threat to his walls. The woman who belittles others for their appearance is often in a secret, brutal war with her own reflection. Judgment is almost never about the person being judged. It is a confession from the one speaking. Trace the line back. If someone calls the world selfish, they are often struggling with their own greed. If they call the world untrustworthy, they are usually the ones hiding a secret. Truth number 9, guilt in a suit of confidence. There is a specific kind of person we all know. The one who seems too sure, always in control, always composed. But look at their jaw. Look at the way they over-prepare for every tiny meeting. Guilt often hides behind false confidence. Nietzsche observed this in leaders and preachers of all kinds. They perform certainty because they are terrified of their own doubt. They are trying to bury a version of themselves they regret. They are trying to outrun a shadow. Real peace doesn't need to perform. So, when someone seems too polished, too perfect, don't be intimidated. Be curious. What are they trying to prove wrong? Truth number 10. The tell of exaggeration. People betray themselves through exaggeration. I don't care what anyone thinks. If they truly didn't care, they wouldn't feel the need to announce it to the room. Exaggeration is a tell. It is the ego trying to drown out a whisper of doubt. Nietzsche believed that extremism in any direction, whether it's extreme positivity or extreme cynicism, is a form of imbalance. When someone's statements are too absolute, don't believe the content. Read the insecurity underneath. Exaggeration is just volume. The question is, what are they trying to silence? Truth number 11, the obsession with control. We see it everywhere, in offices, in marriages, in friendships. The micromanager, the person who needs to know every detail. This isn't a sign of organizational skill. It's a sign of inner chaos. Nietzsche saw this clearly. When the inner world is disordered and frightening, the outer world must be managed obsessively to compensate. If someone cannot handle change, if they must dominate people to feel safe, it's because something inside them feels like it's falling apart. The stricter the outer shell, the more fragile the inner self. Instead of fearing the controlling person, see them for what they are. Someone terrified that the moment they let go of the reins, the whole carriage will fly off the cliff. Truth number 12, the loud performance of the empty core. This applies more today than ever before. Look at the endless look at me energy of modern life. The perfect poses, the constant updates, the curated identities. Nietzsche didn't see this as strength. He saw it as desperation. When someone is constantly performing, it's because they don't believe they will be seen or loved for just being. They create noise, color, and drama because they are afraid that, in the silence, there's nothing there. The person who truly knows themselves doesn't need an audience. They are already whole. So, when you see a life that looks like a nonstop show, remember this: it isn't a display of power. It's a whisper of need. Truth number 13, the logic of pain. We like to think we are rational creatures. We think we argue based on facts. Nietzsche knew better. Underneath every logical argument is an emotional wound. If someone says, commitment is a trap, they aren't stating a philosophical fact. They are protecting a heart that was once broken. If someone says, money is the only thing that matters, they are likely speaking from a past where they felt powerless and small without it. People form their worldviews based on what hurt them, and then they use logic to build a wall around that pain. When you want to understand someone, don't ask what they believe. Ask, what broke you? Ask, what do you never want to feel again? Suddenly, their opinions aren't threats to you. Their arguments aren't attacks. They are shields. When you see the shield, you stop reacting. You start understanding. Truth number 14, the test of weakness. Do you want to see the true character of a person? Don't watch how they treat their boss. Don't watch how they treat someone they want to impress. Watch how they treat someone who can do absolutely nothing for them. Watch how they treat someone who makes a mistake. Nietzsche believed that real strength is revealed through restraint, not domination. If someone mocks vulnerability, they are terrified of their own. If someone punishes small mistakes with cruelty, they were likely never allowed to be human when they were children. But the person who can witness weakness without judgment, who can sit with sadness without trying to fix it or run away, that is someone who has won their inner war. They don't need to prove anything anymore. Truth number 15, the hunger for attention. We've all met them. The person who enters a room and demands the oxygen. Every story they tell is bigger than the last. Every outfit is a scream for notice. It looks like vanity. It looks like ego. But Nietzsche saw the ghost behind it. The hunger for attention usually comes from a deep fear of being invisible, of living and dying without leaving a mark. Often, the child who is ignored becomes the adult who overcompensates. They don't know how to ask for love directly, so they demand it indirectly through performance, drama, or even chaos. When you see someone who is too much, ask yourself what they are afraid will happen if they are not enough. Attention isn't always vanity. Sometimes it's a cry for help in a language they don't know they're speaking. Truth number 16. Envy is unspoken desire. This is one of Nietzsche's boldest truths, and the hardest one to admit to ourselves. People don't always attack because they hate. They often attack because they admire, but feel they can never achieve. Criticism is so much easier than transformation. The person who tears down someone successful, who mocks someone for being free or confident, is in deep pain. To see someone embody a part of life that you have abandoned is a brutal reminder of your own loss. So instead of celebrating the other, we try to destroy the mirror. Envy is just the soul saying, "I want that too. But I don't believe I'm allowed to have it." If you can see this in others, you become immune to their hate. If you can see this in yourself, you finally become free to go after what you actually want. Truth number 17. The childhood script. Nietzsche would argue that people don't change as much as they repeat. They repeat the roles they were forced to play as children. The child who is never heard becomes the adult who never listens. The child who is punished for showing emotion becomes the logical and detached adult who can't connect. The child who had to earn love through grades or chores becomes the adult who performs for affection, even in toxic relationships. They think they are acting from their beliefs, but they are really just reenacting a play that was written for them 30 years ago. When you raid someone, don't just look at who they are today. Ask, who did they have to be to survive their childhood? Behavior is just biography. Behind every difficult adult is a child still waiting to feel safe. Truth number 18. Patterns are a confession. This is the final truth, and it changes everything. People may not know how to say what hurts, but they will show you, over and over again through their patterns, the person who ghosts whenever a relationship gets close. The person who overworks themselves to the point of collapse to avoid sitting in stillness. The person who flirts with everyone but connects with no one. These aren't random behaviors. They are confessions. They're saying, "This is how I protect myself." They're saying, "This is where I was hurt, and I am terrified of it happening again." Nietzsche believed that if you learn to listen deeply, not to the words, but to the rhythm of someone's life, you can hear the truth long before they ever speak it. And when you do, something miraculous happens. You stop personalizing their behavior. You stop judging them. You start understanding. You become a mirror, not a weapon. You become someone who sees the wound, sees the mask, and still chooses to offer grace. That, more than any psychological trick or power move, is what makes you truly powerful. You aren't just reading people anymore. You are remembering your own humanity. Take a moment now and reflect. Every truth we've covered today wasn't just about other people. It was about you, your patterns, your fears, your childhood scripts. The more clearly you see the world, the more clearly you are forced to see yourself. Nietzsche didn't want us to just be observers. He wanted us to awaken. He wanted us to know that everything we judge in others is something we carry within us, and everything we admire in others is something we are capable of becoming. We live in a world full of masks. We live in a world where everyone is performing. But you don't have to be fooled by the performance anymore. You can look past the curtain. You can see the scared child, the silent pain, and the hidden hope. This is the beginning of a new way of seeing. It's the beginning of becoming who you really are. The mask is heavy, but the truth is light. And now that you have the key, you can finally start to unlock the doors, not to control others, but to set yourself free. The patterns are there. The clues are everywhere. Are you ready to stop listening to the words and start hearing the soul? Because once the mask cracks, the light finally gets in, and that is where the real story begins.